Okay, this is part 2 of chapter 14. We are reading from The Rape of the Mind by Just A. and Merleau, MD. But I have found that perhaps the best understanding of the problem of treason has come to me from my psychiatric work with neurotic patients who have to face a daily struggle with the little betrayals of everyday life, with their own self-betrayal, and with their ambivalent feelings toward those they should love. The concept of treason. Before looking into the subject further, let us make an inquiry into the meaning of the word treason. It is, after all, used in a confusing variety of senses. The word treason has many social and political implications, and the customs, habits, and mores of the group in which it is used affect and color its meaning. The word itself is derived from the Latin tradere or transdare, to deliver wrongfully, to betray, to give something across, to give loyalty and secrets away. But from this root the word has acquired a variety of meanings. In the first place, it has a purely emotional individual meaning related to feelings of deprivation and injustice. The infant often experiences all that compels him out of his state of bliss and dependency, which means the very act of growing up, as a betrayal, and sees treason in what he considers rejection by his parents. The person who retains these infantile feelings in his adult life may react to every fancied slight or rejection as to an act of treason or betrayal. Lack of solidarity with the family or clan, with the in-group, not conforming to its rituals and taboos, has often been interpreted by the group as treason through dissent. In this sense, the word implies a primitive moral evaluation. Disgust and contempt are associated with it. Treason indicates something deeply emotional, something taboo, something different or strange, like allegiance to an alien ideology, a breach of traditions, or the simple fact of being a foreigner. Rejection of the norms and rules of the community, being one's own judge of morality and ethics, is often considered treasonable. Utter rejection of the traditions of one's fatherland is an extreme. Often simple nonconformity may be considered treasonable too. Indeed, in totalitarian, nonconformity and dissent are the most serious crimes against the system, and totalitarian minds have a tendency to look upon even honest mistakes or differences of opinion as deliberate treachery. Because of its deep emotional content, the very word itself can be used as a political tool with which to manipulate people. In totalitaria, it becomes merely a Pavlovian sign, triggering off actions of disgust or distrust and hatred. After military defeat or diplomatic disappointment, or whenever feelings of humiliation and inadequacy run high among the people, it is useful strategy to get them to project their sense of inferiority onto others. The traitor is in such a case as an easy scapegoat who satisfies the collective need to project blame and to relieve unconscious anxiety. In a totalitarian society, every citizen is compelled to become a traitor, according to our own Western sense of decency, because it is his duty to betray to the regime every expression of dissension or rebellion. The child has to report his father, the father his child. They are even called traitors in the totalitarian sense as soon as they fail to report. In the common political interpretation, treason is an act of rebellion, sedition, schism, heresy, conspiracy, or subversion. Its technical juridical meaning is well known to everybody. Treason is adhering to enemies and giving aid and comfort to them. It is also, in a more modern, modified sense, taking part in an international ideology conspiracy against the fatherland. To me, as a psychiatrist, its relation to the general problem of self-betrayal is the key to an understanding of the word. The germ of treason arises first in the individual's compromises with his own principles and beliefs. After these initial compromises have been made, it becomes easier to go on, to make more and more compromises, until finally the compromiser may become the man who is willing to sell himself and his services to the highest bitter. During the Nazi occupation, we saw this among those who were seduced to do little services for the enemy. The first step led to the second and then to final collaboration. It is because all of us do doubt ourselves from time to time, because we are unsure of what we would do if we were put to the test, and because we may see in ourselves a potential traitor, the word treason has such highly emotional appeal. But self-doubt is a far cry from actual treason. And the real traitor, in the morbid sense of the word, is not merely a self-doubter. He is a man who believes only in his ultra-personal rights and who scorns the rights and wishes of the community. He is disloyal even to his own gang. Hitler, for example, was a traitor not only to his own ideas, handling them as changeable tools to help him gain and maintain power, he was repeatedly a traitor to his closest friends and collaborators, many of whom he betrayed and murdered in 1934 during what has been called the Night of the Long Knives. The real traitor is a person with egocentric delusions and the conscious conviction that he alone is right. He is a very different type from an involuntary, pathetic, unaware traitor like our little barber. The traitor who consciously takes option for the other side. In my study of political traitors and collaborators, I found that most of them shared two common characteristics. They were easily influenced by minds stronger than their own, and none of them would admit his disloyalty as an act of treason. The traitors I interviewed always volunteered innumerable justifications of their behavior, always surrounded their treachery with a complicated web of sophisms and rationalizations. Actually, they could not tolerate an objective picture of their actions. If they did, they would condemn themselves out of their own mouths. Unconsciously, most of them realized the nature of their crimes and were tormented by guilt feelings. These guilt feelings would have been unbearable if they admitted, even to themselves, the enormity of their deeds. During the Nazi occupation of the Low Countries, I saw these qualities demonstrated again and again. Many of our native traitors were spineless people, ready to accept almost any new idea or elaborate theory. Their suggestibility was their greatest liability. Most of these would-be Nazis had never possessed strong personalities of their own. They had failed in their ambitions and had been disappointed in life. And they readily transferred their frustrated personal longings to political will-o'-the-wisps. After the German invasion and occupation, these people confronted their defeated countrymen with triumphant "I told you so's." They boasted proudly of their wisdom in having bet on the right horse. They gained a tremendous feeling of self-importance, and their newly acquired blown-up self-assurance, backed by the enemy's armed force, made them hard and contemptuous of their compatriots. In an effort to justify their own behavior and their greed for power, they tried to convert others to their new way of life. They were possessed by a compulsion to become propagandists for the invader. Turncoats always try to soothe their own bad consciences by persuading others to share their crime. Of course, they had some real grievances. Everybody does. But these traitors were influenced less by them than by fancied injustices. Through acts of treason, they avenged themselves on society for the private wrongs they had suffered because of their personal failures. Their resentments could be felt in everything they said. The Nazi strategists were experts in exploiting this sense of dissatisfaction. They seemed to know intuitively whether or not an individual could be ensnared by Nazi propaganda. One case I knew of in Holland concerned the ex-director of a large concern who had been ousted from his position on ethical grounds. Early in the occupation, this man received an invitation to join the Nazi ranks, and in a surprisingly short time, he became the leader of an important Nazi business. The Nazis gave him the feeling of having been vindicated. And that's where I'll stop. That was part 2 of chapter 14, and I will see you in part 3. We are reading, remember once again, from The Rape of the Mind by Just A. Merleau, MD, The Psychology of Thought Control, Menticide, and Brainwashing. See you in the next video.